Hello, my name is Connor Traherne, and this is my game, The Armillary Project. The Armillary Project is a third-person, single-player, open-world, quest-based action RPG with cooperative dungeon-crawling segments, where otherworldly demigods fight to protect humanity from a ravenous evil. The game is sci-fi steampunk with a elven futurism as its visual style. This means structures of glass and gold with walls full of trees and life and circuitry. The demigods in this story are the Armian, a scientifically advanced race of magic-using people from the planet Eden. The Armian inhabit large underground environments known as citadels. These are created by hollowing out the mantles of Eden's moons and building vast cities under the heat and light of the molten core. The Citadels of Eden were created by a group called the Armillary Project, who also created interstellar travel with the use of machines called armillary engines. Armillary engines are bigger on the inside space capsules, which use structures of folding rings to bend space and launch itself through the cosmos. The Armian left Eden centuries ago, but space-capable humans have discovered and recolonized their old and now overgrown citadels. The Armian return when a war breaks out on Eden between two gods and their disciples, the goddess Eris, her twin children and their Armian father, against Icarus, a ravenous evil god who finds joy in causing death and who spreads his influence into the mortal world by turning humans into creatures called Chimera. You played Tool, a fully customizable Armian character who finds himself in this story after stowing away with Lilith on her armillary engine. Your character will be fully voice acted, and dialogue options will allow you to either be the staggering hero that everyone looks up to, or the horrible villain that everyone thinks does their job out of spite. Lilith Gwyn, daughter of Eris, befriends you and teaches you the skills you need to learn the first of 3 classes that the Armillary Project has to offer. The Maverick is a sharpshooter, precise and deadly. They channel their power outwards through their weapons to fire intense beams of energy that hit with different effects depending on what you have chosen from the Maverick's ability tree. These usually spread from armor-piercing, high-explosive or stun, and they can be upgraded or combined. This is just an example, it will likely be a lot bigger in the actual game. Later in the game, you will meet Kanan Gwyn, Lilith's brother. Kanan is a Hadron. Hadron serves as an area of effect-based battle mage who channels their energy around themselves into a protective shield. This protective shield can be used for attacks and must be recharged because without it they are defenseless. These attacks are area of effect based, unlike a Maverick who is focused, but the ability trees work in the same way. Much later in the game you will meet Leven Gwyn, the father of the twins. Leven is a Vanguard. A Vanguard is a defensive-based melee class who channels their energy inward to create physical strength. They use combinations of light, fast attacks, powerful heavy attacks, and protective abilities. From the beginning of the game, your quest begins simply. You are Lilith Gwyn's travel companion, and by following in her footsteps you learn the basics of the game. The world will be inhabited by plenty of NPCs, which will be part of a large fleshed out story that will be personalised to you. Once you've reached a high enough level with a Maverick, Lilith will allow you to go out on your own to do quests, and this is when the game starts properly. Jobs that are given to you by NPCs can range from resource errands to Chimera extermination. Your player home and hub is Lilith's armillary engine. Here you can arrange your equipment, upgrade your abilities, and enchant your weapons. The armillary engine is a way of fast travelling between citadels as they become available to you. Once you have met Kanan, you will be able to use the armillary engine's technology to switch between classes as you want to. The open world citadels come in many shapes, sizes and visual styles, and each citadel is held on a server populated by multiple players. Whilst in the open world you can only see other players, you can invite each other to cooperative parties for fighting in dungeon crawls. These dungeon crawls are called gateway exterminations and are instanced. Gateway exterminations are where you fight through hordes of chimera across an infested landscape, and you have to complete various objectives. One example of an objective would be venturing through a portal to Eden's surface, defeating a boss, sabotaging the portal, and escaping the dungeon before it collapses and explodes. Once you've completed enough of these quests, you'll be able to discover a gateway and reactivate it, which will take you to the next citadel. Once you open the gateway, you can then fast travel between citadels using the engine. The citadels contain tall buildings, hanging structures and vast architecture, which is exactly why parkour is a key movement mechanic in the Armillary project. Just by holding space and sprinting, you can climb on basically any wall, grab any ledge, pillar or pole. The way you traverse the citadels is entirely up to you. Falling will most likely result in your death, and new routes and areas will become available to you when you unlock equipment like a grappling hook or a zipline, which you can get from quests or merchants. More equipment will come available to you later on. Throughout the game, more and more better equipment will be available to you, leading up to the Armillary suit, an advanced suit of armour which are based on Armillary engine technology, which allows you to use all three classes at once you've mastered them. This is your key weapon against Icarus in the endgame fight, alongside the other Gwynns and any NPCs you've befriended along the way. Weapons in the Armillary project vary greatly, and whilst some weapons are typical for certain classes, say a gun for a Maverick, it is entirely up to you to personalise your character with whatever weapons you want them to use. Various outfits and pieces of armour will be available to you from the merchant. You'll be able to customise them with cosmetics such as a colour scheme or an insignia. You will be able to enchant your weapons for melee speed, fire rate, or elemental damage, which buffs your class's abilities. The game will be available on PC and console and will be released as a single unit, reasonably priced, and will have later released DLC. The later released DLC will contain more citadels, more weapons, and more cosmetics. The Armillary project is your adventure that moves at your pace. It is a vast, stunning environment that has a deep world for you to explore and immerse yourself in. Thank you for listening. Do you have any questions?
I think first of all, I'd like to say congratulations. I thought that was brilliant.
That's not like clapping.
That's a pitch. That was a pitch.
That's how you do it.
Yeah.
Right, so...
Totally sold that game to me. I would.
Yeah, I think from the moment that you started speaking and we got the first frame up, I could just sense a massive amount of passion coming from your side, and it's clear to see that you've put a hell of a lot of work into this, which is great. Always great to see, and you know, it's that kind of love for games. I think that, you know, makes me feel a bit better in terms of there's not just a few of us that are really passionate about it. We all want to do it, and it's a great thing to do. So
now he's going to tear it to pieces.
Bill's been using a red pen as well. No, I wasn't actually. I was just going to say, I think one thing to keep in mind, as much as I like this sort of parkour kind of climbing, jumping about, agile sort of movements that the character does, it's always nice as well to keep in mind with that stuff that as much as it's nice that it's all sort of automated, similar to what we get in Assassin's Creed and Uncharted, it's always nice to have that little bit of skill as well, so it doesn't just feel like you're literally just smacking a button, you know what I mean, be it sort of pushing, stick in the right direction and that kind of thing. But I like that in terms of you just being able to bez about the map at kind of lightning speed. Similar to as well going back a bit further in time to play like Mirror's Edge.
Yeah.
I mean,
I'm
that
just
were,
thinking I prefer the mechanic on that jump because you had to tap the right jump at the right time.
It
On
felt-
those red things.
Yeah,
That's
you
it.
weren't just holding
Felt-
A and running at a wall. You had
that's
to
the sort of skill I think that you want to get in there, even though there's a pointer, but it's almost a bit reactive on the player's side of things. I don't think anything really.
You know when you
puzzles me.
when you skill up on your tech tree on whatever class it is, are all of those abilities available to you within that class whenever you want them then? Or do you have to select which ones you're kind of going to have
You have to
carrying?
You have to spend perk points on a direction in the tree, and in that way you can spend perk points later lower down in the tree if you want to go in a different direction. But
Right. So ultimately I could achieve all of the bits of the tech tree, and then if I'm a maverick, let's say, and I've completed that maverick tech tree, in a battle can I use whichever of them I want, or do I have to sort of pre-equip which ones I'm going to have active at any one moment in time?
I think you'll be able to switch between them on a wheel,
Right.
like in GTA when
Yeah,
you
yeah.
select your weapons. You can switch between one.
And it's only until I get it's only when I get the armillary suit at the end that I can have all three classes active though.
Yes, that's when the abilities sort of combine and you become the
Yeah.
pinnacle.
Otherwise I've got to go to the armillary engine and choose which class I've got active.
Yeah. You can only switch between classes once you've gone back to your class.
Just straight away I want to replay that because straight away I want to replay with all the powers.
Yeah.
That'd be really cool.
See how quick you can do it once you're pimped.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
A new game plus would be pretty good as well with that. Once you have the armillary suit, you could then start again, have all the enemies be like really buffed, but you have the armillary suit from the off, that would be really good
I
as
just
well.
tell by
I was-
looking at you three.
I was planning on a new game plus.
Yeah, that'd be good. There was only one thing that it wasn't even necessarily a bad. It wasn't a bad thing.
Careful.
You just, I know.
I know.
You said that for the final fight, the NPCs can help you out. Is that based off of like a trust meter or how many missions you do for them? Or?
I'm thinking of, well, with your dialogue options, I'm thinking of an affinity system with different NPCs, so however you deal with different encounters with different characters around the world, different characters can then later decide to help you if you are needed.
Do you know that from the off? So if I decide to be a dick right at the start and then at the end I'm like, damn it, like, why did I decide to do that? Or is it a case of I know I kind of have to be nice throughout this whole thing?
I was thinking a system similar to Fallout 4 where it would tell you when someone didn't like what you just said.
Oh, yeah.
And as soon as
no
you've
one
seen
liked
that people
this.
can
But
dislike
I'd
what
also
you
like
just
it.
said,
Sometimes if I'm a dick with a certain faction, they actually like that. So it needs to.
Yeah, so...
That was one question I had, where you make that choice right at the beginning, which I really liked, about whether you were going to be sort of the square-jawed hero or the nasty piece of work. And it felt like what you were saying is that unlocked a whole separate dialogue route.
Yeah.
Does it change anything else?
Um,
Is the gameplay and the missions and everything else functionally the same? I just say different things at a particular moment.
I think it would affect the world in the way of how people looked at you, what they'd say about you when you walk past them in the street. A lot of the time, when you're in need of assistance in something, then no one will offer to help you because no one likes you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that.
So is the game dynamic between the citadels? So is in like a reputation in one citadel, does that affect another, or are they all separate?
I think it might start to affect each other. If you
Yeah.
are like particularly a dick in one citadel, then they'll start to get hit.
That's what I'm thinking. So
You become a global dick.
well, that's what. Yeah, a unique.
That's what we're running with now, innit?
Yeah,
So
sorry.
I'm a dick.
And
Your fault.
how, just because I know some, how much of that concept art is yours? I know the armillary engine is.
But is it?
Yeah.
I thought you were being sarcastic.
No,
that
no.
was
that
it.
was- yeah, you made the armillary engine,
The-
didn't you?
The drawings are mine. That 3D one, that 3D one, that 3D one. They were from Pinterest. That middle one was that gap thing was mine. That's not mine. That was mine.
Well chosen, though, the ones
So
that
you-
aren't in yours.
You made that
They fit,
environment.
don't they?
Yeah.
I made that in another game in a building engine.
Cool. That is really cool. That comes.
I took these screenshots of my custom characters from the same game. I don't own any of them. All those. I own the end one. that's the only one. I was
How did you make the characters?
That one I made in a Fallout 4, and I modded the hell out of it so that I could make.
So you're a modder?
I don't make mods. I just
Mods.
I just use them.
Use mods.
Okay.
Tough mod.
Okay.
That's not right.
But yeah, just but that
The
definitely- that
engine
is
and the outside capsule, because it is a man-sized capsule on the outside, and when you step in,
person sounds
like a tiny
It's
Yeah.
a treatment.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
good.
Excellent.
Well done, Connor.
Excellent, Connor. Well done.
Marvellous.
That's it. You done?
You are dismissed.
Well played, Connor.